Thomas Shelby is someone who at first glance comes across as cold, calculating and ruthless. But if you look closer, you will see that this is just a mask, a persona he created to survive in the dark world of Birmingham. Persona, mask. He wears this mask, suppressing his true self, which we see more and more over the course of the series, leading to various psychological struggles. The Shelby persona is a mask of fear and suspense, giving him the power to survive and strive in a dark world. But beneath this mask lies a man, Thomas, driven by trauma, inner conflicts and a constant fear of showing weakness.
Why?
Why? Because we can! Because we can! And if we can, we do!
Thomas developed this persona because he comes from a world where weakness is equal to death. Similar to Curtis Jackson, who created the 50 Cent persona to survive and strive on the streets of Southside Queens. As the middle of three brothers, Thomas' role in the family extends far beyond just being a brother. He takes on the role of a father figure for his two brothers, Arthur and John. This responsibility weighs heavily on him, especially because Arthur is emotionally unstable. Thomas often has to step in, take the lead and make the hard decisions, which pulls him even deeper into his Shelby persona. The following is a quote from Machiavelli's The Prince. "If you have to choose between being loved or feared, then be feared." Thomas chooses fear over love because he knows that love makes him vulnerable, but this choice comes at a great cost. Thomas displays many traits that align with what we call a blue personality type according to collab psychology theory. He's highly intelligent, analytical and a master strategist. Thomas studies his opponents, observing every move before he acts. This makes him the perfect example of a Sigma male. His power doesn't come from physical dominance like Arthur's, but from strategic thinking and intelligence. A great example of this is the Billy Kimber scene in season 1.
You said you wanted men called Shelby. You've got 3 of them.
Right, he's the oldest, you're the thickest. I'm told the boss is called Tommy, and I'm guessing that's you, because you're looking me up and down like I'm a tart.
I want to know what you want. I admire you, Mr. Kimber. You started with nothing and built a legitimate business. It would be an honor to work with you, Mr. Kimber.
Nobody works with me. People work for me.
Billy throws a coin to the ground, asking Thomas to pick it up to demonstrate dominance. While John and Arthur would have reacted emotionally, Thomas remains calm, already thinking several steps ahead. He picks up the coin, not because he's submitting, but to lower Billy Kimber's guard and to pretend that he is not a threat. But in reality, he is already plotting how to use Kimber to his advantage. This strategic and analytical thinking is what defines Thomas Shelby. Thomas' leadership isn't just about strategy, it's about control. He maintains dominance through fear, but also a calculated form of trust. He knows exactly when to show loyalty and when to cut ties, making him a master of manipulation, even within his own family. His ability to balance this thin line between trust and fear keeps the Shelby empire functioning. But this constant calculating, this cold rationality, eventually leads him to emotionally shut down. People become chess pieces to him, and this growing distance from others, even from his own family, gets larger over time. The more he calculates, the more isolated he becomes. As the series progresses, we see Thomas increasingly struggle with dark thoughts and a deep sense of inner emptiness, especially in the 5th season. These thoughts also stem from his blue side, as he isolates himself more and more through the Shelby persona. Over the seasons, Thomas' mental health steadily declines, but instead of seeking help, he isolates himself further. His reliance on narcotics in season 1 are coping mechanisms, masking deeper mental health issues. And his increasing paranoia in season 5 and emotional detachment point toward a man teetering on the edge of collapse. His mind, once his greatest asset, becomes a labyrinth he cannot escape. He becomes so entangled in his own schemes and power plays that he loses sight of who he really is. Thomas' emotional detachment can also be tracked back to his deeply rooted trauma. As a veteran, he suffers from severe PTSD, plagued by sleepless nights and nightmares. These experiences keep him on a high alert, preventing him from ever truly letting his guard down. His experiences as a veteran don't just haunt him, they drive his need for control. The battlefield taught him that emotions are a liability, so he suppresses them at all costs. But the further he pushes them down, the more they resurface in dangerous ways, impacting not only his decision-making, but his personal relationships. Despite his blue, analytical side, beneath the mask, Thomas actually has a lot of green personality traits, which we see especially when he interacts with children or animals, showing that, under the Shelby persona, he has a big heart. However, this emotional side gets more and more suppressed as time goes on. The loss of Grace in Season 3 and the constant exposure to violence make him emotionally numb.
Because legitimate business, John, is the priority.
His when your wife took a bullet meant for me!
He distances himself from everyone who could get close to him, out of fear of being hurt again. Thomas' fear of emotional connection is most evident in his relationships. Except for Grace, he struggles to form deep connections with women. Instead, he opts for the easier route relationships with little emotional risk, like with Lizzie, whom he treats in a pragmatic, superficial way.
I wish just once you wouldn't pay me. As if we were ordinary people.
Grace represents the emotional vulnerability that Thomas desperately tries to bury. His love for her is one of the few glimpses we get of the man behind the mask, and her loss in Season 3 marks the final nail in the coffin of his emotional detachment. After Grace, Thomas' walls go up even higher, and we see him fall deeper into isolation and darkness. Then there's the red side of Thomas' personality. His ambitions are limitless. He's a true visionary with clear goals for his business and his family.
Tommy, does your ambition have no limits?
His courage and determination are admirable, but the deeper he dives into his ambitions, the more they turn into an obsession. Thomas becomes fixated on success, blinding him to the emotional and personal consequences of his actions, like we see in Season 2. Relationships, friendships, and even his own well-being are sacrificed in this relentless pursuit of power and control. These three colors, blue, green, and red, make Thomas Shelby such a fascinating and complex character. His intelligence and cold detachment give him the power to survive in a ruthless and dark world. But the price he pays for this is high. With each season we see how these colors shift. The blue coldness becomes more dominant, the green side, his ability to form bonds, fades away, and the red energy that drives him turns into an obsession that could ultimately destroy him. What defines Thomas Shelby is his constant inner conflict. On one hand, he wants to love, to be there for his family and to live in peace. But on the other hand, he's forced himself into a role that allows no weakness. The Shelby persona is consuming the real Thomas, and the question remains, will he ever be able to reclaim his true self? We will see in the upcoming Peaky Blinder movie. Did you find this video interesting? Are you curious to explore your own personality structure? Book a personalized analysis today and unlock your full potential. Click in the link in the description to schedule your introductory talk now.